right. Been watching a bunch of your videos today too.
Oh,
So, so I feel like we've already talked. I sent one to my son as well. The last one that I sent to him was, I'll tell you, just I sent multiple. So let me see what it was going. The fight for something. You don't need self-help. You need to learn how to fight.
oh yeah, 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 awesome. Thank you. I'm having a really good time with YouTube. I am a writer first, and that's how I cut my teeth on this internet space. And so I figured out though, just watching other people do it, that I don't need to sit and learn fancy graphics. But you do have to learn how to like present and talk on the thing, because what I tried to do at first, you can see some of my like older ones on there. I just tried to like read the essays,
Yeah.
and that didn't really work. And so I had to like make some other changes. And but it's cool because now I really understand what to do. And then I also stumbled into a really cool dude who designs my thumbnails, who like no one else has and knows about. We're actually like and it makes a difference because you get a click, and that click gets people to read, or read to watch.
Yeah. Look, well, what I love about it is it's a great place to start, which is the progress is a process. When you get out there and you start something, it's about learning and growing and figuring it out, and like you identify, I consider myself a writer first before I am, let's say, a talker or even a speaker. I started writing, and then that became the blog, and then the blog and the conversations that I was doing with the podcast, and that became the book. Then the book led to the speaking, and you got to learn how to speak.
Yeah.
And then it began all this, and it's an evolve. And then once you learn how to speak, then you got to also figure out how to promote it. Also, how to get anybody to watch it.
Funny,
And
man. That's like that's like where I'm at in my kind of my journey. Now, like stuff is the internet stuff. For whatever reason, uh SEO and all things related to that just makes sense to me. It takes little effort for me to uh to assimilate and then synthesize that information. Now I'm applying that idea. I'm reaching out for in person speaking things, and that's it's going okay. Having a good time with it, and all. But it's like everything else. You start from the bottom and you work your way up.
that's another thing about, like, you can be best in class at your respective trade. I've gotten to know a lot of speakers. I've gone to a number of different speakers type programs and events, and who you meet there. And what I found was interesting is I become around a lot of people who are best in class in their respective industries. They're entrepreneurs, they're founders, they're athletes, they're gold medalists, they're retired, this person. And what are they when it comes to speaking? And beginners.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? We're all sitting in the same room trying to learn something completely new at whatever stage of life, we're at. And then they share a certain trait, like what you're talking about, is just being humble and just being willing to start from the bottom and work your way up. And okay, well, I may have been in the ring in front of however many thousands of people. Well, today I'm speaking in a breakout room in front of 50 people.
I'm convinced
Yeah.
that's a great kind of secret to life, I guess. That if you can keep doing new things, and not like not so often that you don't ever make any progress, but you keep doing, you take on something that is where you're weak. And but it's interesting, there's no point in doing something that where you're weak and you have no interest. But where you're weak and you want to be better, that's a great place to I guess to coalesce, to bring your energies together, because you'll learn so many supplementary skills, and you also put faith back in yourself. Oh,
And I think specifically for guys in middle age. And how old are you now, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm 40.
Okay, so you're 40. You just kind of crossed over into, okay, 40. Like, was 40 a big birthday for you? Like, was that a big deal for you?
Nah, if anything, I'm trying to, what my thoughts about 40. First, I don't, I mean, I know I'm supposed to feel different. Maybe I am. I don't feel any different. I I feel mentally and emotionally, kind of the same. Now with that said, I know I don't think differently because there's so many things that are taking place that that it's all slow. It's like watching a kid grow. It's like, you one day you look up and they're huge and you're like, when did that happen? Every day was a little bit of growth. Okay, but being at this stage in my life, I am what stands out to me, what actually makes me feel old counterintuitively is whenever I talk to people who aren't old, or rather who aren't young, as I
Okay.
should say. Like in the sense of the word, like they are not young people, or rather they're not minors. They're like graduated from college. They're adults, and I still have a decade and a half of life on them, and we don't even speak the same language. That is what makes me feel old when I'm like, yo, like, what do you mean you were born in the year 2000? Wait, so you don't remember 9/11? Stuff like that. But the really cool, kind of trump card, part of it is, well, a big part of it is how I live and how I approach the world and how I still, think and communicate for better or worse. And the other part is, I'm sure there's a genetic or racial component. I I continually get placed in a lower age bracket. And that'll last for as long as it lasts. I mean,
Well, I
but
think there are a couple of things
yeah.
there. One, that you touched on. I think a lot of middle-aged guys, I'm 52, struggle with being a beginner again. We get set
Mm.
in our ways. We've lived these lives, struggle to be a beginner again. And you're immersing yourself in that, which makes you, again, the outlier there. At a time also when a lot of guys are slowing down.
Yeah.
Okay? Here you are at 40, not like not only not slowing down, but really speeding up, getting back in the ring. I want to get into all the things, being like really hitting your stride though, but being prolific in all of these new areas. And you
Yeah.
talk about, you just mentioned it, like how you live. And I'm interested in that. And I think that's a lot, that's a missing piece for a lot of guys out there is the how. I talk about this a lot. The why, like, we get the why in a lot of ways. Why you
Yeah.
want to be healthy, or why you want to be happy, or why you want to make more money. And like, there's a where a lot of guys struggle is in the how. And I think have these opportunities to learn from men like yourself and get into like, hey, like, walk me through like what your how is. When you say how you live, like, what do you do each day? Like what makes you a vibrant 40 with no signs of slowing down and signs of only getting better and doing that? I think guys want to know like the specifics to that. It's like, hey man, give me the answers to the test. What does Ed do?
you know, I think overall, I don't feel content. There's a few things going here as I talk. It comes to and really clarifies in my head. But for starters, one, I don't feel content or particularly accomplished. So I'm always trying to accomplish things. It just it, that now granted, one of the things that's happened is I've greatly narrowed the scope, and I'm much more interested in being very good at a few things. But my interests are the same. I mean, like I I practice chess and I'm in the boxing gym and I'm always and I always keep myself kind of open and realize that I have things to learn from other people. And I continually approach the world like a scientist in the purest sense of the word, and that I take in data, test it, see where it lies, and then see if I can, what I can do with it. So I'm always open to new information, which is how one should be. Um, that's just kind of this overall approach to things, and then with a supporting aspect of it, I always you have to prioritize your existence in the world. And I know that sounds kind of weird, so I'll be more specific. You have to prioritize your physical connection with the world and how you go about doing things. Like if that's not, you have to be active. If you can be active, you can you can stave off a lot. I the walking constantly and playing with my kid. Having a kid later probably helps a lot too. Um, because I'm not managing teenager energy, which is like from what I understand it, they're more or less off doing their own thing and you occasionally interact. Managing full blown toddler energy where every time we go to the park, let's play tag. That's like his favorite thing. Let's play tag. So even if I didn't work out or I did work out that day, I gotta go run around and sprint and play tag. Then there's I try to just, keep my world full of love too, and support. And part of me you used to really not like putting that in any category because that's kind of like woo to me. But what it ends up, what we found is like that stuff makes a big difference. If you can put yourself around love and connection and people that care about you. And when you do that, that forces you to behave in a way to where they want to be around you.
Mm.
So I'm trying to live my best, and the real way. I'm really trying to live my best life. I'm really trying to be impactful, be supportive, be a good example, grow and push things, and have a positive influence on my world. That dictates that I have to live and conduct myself in a certain way, physically and emotionally. It all has to come together. So that's pretty much the how. Like there are no. I mean, other than like what everyone knows, yeah, you need to be physically active. That's like a non-negotiable at this point in my life, and really it always has been kind of by default of what I've done for most of my life at this point. But that was uh, the terms of the deal, so to speak, or that I was getting in the ring. When I
Mm.
wasn't getting in the ring, it was, well, what are we gonna do now? What's the reasoning? Uh, and so my whole mentality had to really shift, because like for example, when I fought, I couldn't keep weight on. It was I could eat anything, and I did, and I ate a lot of anything, and I still didn't eat bad. It's just like, for example, something I don't eat at all anymore. I used to eat Ritz crackers, like by the like, I don't know what to
Like the
call them.
sleeve,
Yeah,
yeah,
by the
they had
sleeve.
like 3 or 4 sleeves. I remember them.
and and I'd eat like two or three on the way home from the gym to eat dinner because I just needed that many calories. But it's still a poor relationship with food. There were so many other things I could have eaten in place of that. Now there are worse things too, but that's some of the things. But coming out of the ring for a little while, I had to change my relationship with food. And if I wanted to be in shape, if I wanted to maintain myself, I'm always thinking proactively. So I get like blood work done. I work with this company called Rebel Health, and they like you go get your blood work done, you go get your genetic test done,
Mhm.
and you get to see kind of what is working under the hood. And we'll get into more of this when we get to the boxing thing. But seeing some things that were there makes a big made a really big difference in my training. You know,
Mm.
so
Starting back a little bit, um, hard childhood, harsh truths in there. You know, how you came up and how, you just talked about your relationship with food, but how you came up also, what was your relationship with the world? You know, what was your relationship with society? You know, how did how you grow up? How did it shape your ability to see the world and and accept things? You know, or your path. You know, because I grew up on the North Shore of Long Island. I grew up very privileged. I grew up very entitled. I grew up, you know, one of the, I say this now, I can look back and go, what, where I came from, there was nowhere to go but down. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize it at the time until I got out of town and some other bad shit happened, you know, in my life and in my family and otherwise, or in, went to college in Michigan and I landed in Detroit. I saw some stuff and I saw some people and some other things go, wait a minute, like there's a whole other world out there. And I'd missed out on how other people were raised and what was going on there. So I'm really interested in kind of how your youth and how you grew up, how that shaped you into what you've really become as an author, as a writer, as a speaker, as a boxer, as a chess player. You know, it's like we now we're talking about blood work and like we get to a lot of stuff between inception, being born, and 40 already too. And
Yeah.
we haven't touched on a ton of stuff. So, you know, your perspective on that is I'm curious.
First, how I grew up and how those things affected me and what that was like. So I grew up in in a public housing project here in Pittsburgh, PA, and that and when I think about my childhood, I've gone back and forth because when you're a kid, there are times where you're happy and you remember the fun times and you remember some fun things, but I think about kind of, am I looking at a fun, carefree childhood with periods of unhappiness, or am I looking at an unhappy childhood and those periods of contentness and peace stand out? It is definitely the latter. And not even really by a close margin. It uh I the way I described it is it was just low level PTSD. There was never a safe place, or I have low level PTSD, had it from my childhood kind of. It was never really a safe place. At home, my mom was physically abusive, and she was also verbally. She was, I mean, just a really rough person to deal with. And as I got older, it actually became harder. One, because she couldn't push me around, and two, because I started spending as much time out of the house as possible once I made friends at this high school, or the high school I went to across town. Before that high school, though, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't really have any friends. I had like two friends, uh, and because I didn't really get along with everybody, because that was the other issue. There was a lot of like so much fighting, so much violence, and I had enough sense in my head to know I don't want to be part of this. Um, and I don't want to fight, so I'm just gonna like kind of keep to myself. So I spent a lot of time playing video games and reading books. That was like my thing. Um, School was okay, but school was also another place where I had a lot of problems and dealt with a lot of issues. Would much rather just stay at home. It's not like you learn much in school, at least not at the school I was at. Not like I learned much anyway. Uh, and really how that shaped me, I think my childhood is really a case of, I was going one path and I was with one group of people, and I don't think I would ever let my environment. I'd like to think this, but who knows? Um, I don't think I would ever let my environment change me, but it was definitely, it was either going to change me or I was going to be a true isolated person with like stunted and weak social skills and didn't know anybody kind of deal. That's probably what high school would have been like for me. But I went to this other high school because I didn't want to stay with the people I had gone to school with for the past 8 years, and that allowed me, just opened up so much. First, I was in a completely different social economic background, and all of my friends' parents really treated me like their child once they really figured out where I was coming from, and so I wasn't a threat. And that made a big difference. I don't, I said I didn't spend time at home. I didn't spend to give you an idea of this. I didn't spend any holidays at home.
Mm.
Not entirely. I either woke up at a friend's house on like Christmas or went over to a friend's house for dinner on Thanksgiving. or I didn't spend the day there at all. It just wasn't. I really had a strong aversion. I because it was just a bad environment, and I knew it was a bad environment. And here's the worst part for me. Uh, I I was unhappy before high school. When I got to high school, I simultaneously I now had a place to go where I could like be a kid. I didn't have to worry about getting my ass kicked at home or at school. But I also got to see it didn't have to be this way. So one of the things, when you grow up in the projects and the way our school system is set up in Pittsburgh, and I think most places are like this in a city, is that you go to a school based on your neighborhood. So I went to school with other people in my neighborhood or other kids from surrounding neighborhoods whose parents didn't send them to a better school if they could. But most of the surrounding areas, I mean, like I'm trying to think, in middle school, there's the Northview Heights projects, Allegheny Commons projects, Farmview projects, Manchester projects. So these are all like going to this school, and then there's like your busted down neighborhoods. Many of them are quite nice now with gentrification, but like Mexican War Streets. That's what they're called, the Mexican War Streets. That's crazy. The whole federal area, and then we had your broke white people that lived up like in Troy Hill, Spring Garden. There was another project up in Spring Garden. These are all the people that were going to my school. So I didn't know any better. This was my middle
Right.
school and my elementary school environment. I get to high school, I'm on the other side of town, very different. I mean, you can look up the neighborhoods, Squirrel Hill, Point Breeze, uh, Squirrel Hill, Point Breeze. Well, there's another shady side. Like these are really nice neighborhoods where all of my friends are coming from now, and the people I'm in school with. Big difference in my life, and fortunately, they were great people who treated me well, and I didn't even
And you
realize how
saw a
much.
different side and you saw a possibility.
Yeah, I saw a possibility. It was a double-edged sword. I saw what could happen, and it made me so angry about where I came from. I mean, like really angry, and my mom couldn't understand it, and I thought I was explaining it clearly. I'm like, why would you have us if you can't at least not have us live in this? Like, and now, look, the other thing that always confused the heck out of me is I don't have any memory of my dad ever living with us. I knew what my dad was; he wasn't some deadbeat, but like, we're never a family under one roof. Somehow, my sister's 3.5 years apart, or 3.5 years younger than me, and somehow we have the same mother and father. Never made sense to me. I asked my uncle about this, and I was like, because my dad and my mom didn't get along. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, but there you go, man. Irresponsibility and ignorance at its finest, and then you get you end up with kids born into that system.
So how do you take all this, absorb it, learn from it, and then I guess your like, and then move forward from it, like your path, and so you get through the high school. You're out. When did you start to? Were you training through this? Did you start? I mean, you wanted to get away and out of the violence, and at the same time, you end up very much in the violence business.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are surprised by it, but I didn't box in high school. I didn't start boxing until I was 22. Uh, and that was because I wasn't doing anything at all with my life. I tried college and failed out. I was just working at Starbucks, but I was talking crazy nonsense about college. I was anybody who would listen, I would say how pointless it was, and how you could do anything. You didn't need college to be successful. Never mind the fact that I'm like paying homeless people to buy me alcohol from the liquor store. That's how successful I was. And one of the people though I used to say this to was my girlfriend's mother, and just so happened, she's a professor of biology at the University of Pittsburgh. So one day, she said, after being really patient for a long time, because a lot of people won't put up with some 22-year-old dropout drunk, you know, crapping all over the profession. She says, "Okay, let's pretend you're right and college is pointless. What have you done with your life over the past 4 years besides show up to my house and eat my food?" and then she threw me out. Right. So I said, I've never been one to shy away from the truth. And I'm like, she's right. If I died today, what would we say? He played a little college football and drank. Like that's what it was. So I was like, let me beef with my obituary. Like at the very least, make sure that I don't know if you remember those old and most interesting man in the world commercials.
Yeah.
Like it's never too late to beef up your obituary. Like that was like my thought process. And I said, let me go do something. And I never wanted to have I never wanted to be at a loss for words if somebody asked me what I'd done with my life over the past 4 years. Like never again.
Mm.
So I looked and it was between the military and boxing, and this was right when we had just invaded Iraq. And I said, no, I don't want to change my life that badly. So I looked at I was watching YouTube. This is right when YouTube came out, like 2008. And I was watching fight videos, and I said, let me try to fight. The fighting I always found it fascinating. So I said, let me go try this. This is something I can do. It's not gonna pay me any money, but like I won't just be this dude hanging out all the time drinking, because that's like, but one of the things I look back on, and this is no shade to anybody, but it just is what it is. The average person, they go to their college and they drink or study or whatever, and usually both, and then they graduate, and then they work, and maybe they have friends, maybe they don't. Not There's a big epidemic that runs downstream of this in our country of adults making friends. Everyone talks about the male loneliness epidemic, but it's not just men. Women are better at maintaining friendships and also falling for the illusion
Hmm.
of relationship, because every guy is trying to sleep with them, so they always feel like there's always somebody interested. Guys don't ever get that illusion. um so I guess maybe guys are lonelier, but it's probably more accurate to say that guys don't have anything to to fool them into thinking that they're socially desired. But I didn't want to be that guy, and what one of the things boxing did, I didn't realize it at the time, was it exposed me to a whole new network of people that as I earned my stripes in and spent more time around, that I'm like known as the guy that boxes. A lot of people will meet me, and that's how they'll recognize and identify, or they'll find me through that system. Or my name comes up. If I say to somebody I box, someone else go, "Oh, I box too," and then there's the
Yeah.
real recognize real sort of deal. Either way, though, what it did, the boxing did a lot of things for me. But one of the big things it did is that it continued this path of continued this trend of making connections with people in different areas of life.
So you didn't go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of money. I'm going to go pro. You went into it
No.
on the impetus of, I need to get my life together. And here's something I was watching this. I'm looking even at hey, look at what they do, even the science of the whole thing. And I think I can do this and give this a shot. And ultimately what happens is you end up meeting people, you develop an identity, you're something again, we've got something in common with other people who do this, there's action that you're taking. It was one of the things that it struck me about the video that you put up on YouTube. We talked about it right before we hit record, and I said to you, like, I shared this with my son because I was watching a bunch of your videos, and the thing that I loved about it so much was about this notion of getting up and going into the gym, period. Whether it's boxing, whether it's MMA, whether it's martial arts, whether it's trying, you talk, okay, not throwing any shade on any of the other ones, but like what it is, in there. But just this notion of being active and going into a gym and what happens, and what happens to you. Um, and actually, my son's 22 right now. He's in his senior year in college. How much he's learning remains to be
Yeah.
seen. Okay, in there. But I had written recently that he called me up and said, "Hey, you know, I want to fight." He said, "Look, I'm 22. I've been boxing myself for years. Never. I've I still buy every Friday. I still box with my trainer. He comes over. We still throw mitts. We still spar a little bit. My son's joined us a bunch over the years. He's seeing that in there. And there's a boxing event that was coming to see you where he goes to school. And he's like, you got to register. It's USA Boxing sanctioned.
Yep.
And if you apply, you can get in. It's a 3 round fight and da da da. And then they rent a theater. They're doing these oncologists in there. And he's like, I want to try it. And I said, okay, let's run. Let's check out if it's legit. First of all, let's check out if it's legit, what it all is. When go into the gym where they're going to be training you and check out the whole thing. But where I was going with this, and what struck me so much about your video was that it's like this is an opportunity for you to meet people. Also, this is an opportunity for you to stand for something, to develop an identity. I mean, aside from the fighting itself side, and I want to talk to you more about this. Look, I think every guy at some point in his life should get punched in the face. Needs to experience what it's like to get in a ring or be somewhere where you can be physical and that type of thing, whatever modality it is, in there. But it's discipline and it's preparation and it's consistency. And if you want to have any chance of holding your own or being respected, you got to be there. You got to put in the work in all of these things.
Yep.
So I shared the video with him today. I thought what you put out was wonderful, but it's really also about you're probably going to be a one and done kid. Like in this, this is your time. You'll go do it maybe, and I'm glad you'll have the experience. And win or lose, you're going to learn something, no matter what. But when you come out of this, you'll always have it. But what you also will realize is, I think again to your point, game respects game. Like because if you keep, you'll make friends, you'll meet people, you'll be part of something. And that could be in any aspect of your life that you go into. So I thought the message was really, really good in there. And you're still living it is the point, is I guess the point that I'm making. Like you're still doing it, you're still living it, and you got back in the ring recently too. So walk
Yeah.
me through that.
So I didn't just, there are four kind of cornerstone reasons, maybe five, but four for sure. Cornerstone reasons why I got back in the ring. And before I go over those, I have to say, if it was just one, there is no singular reason by itself. I don't like the sport that much. There's almost certainly no combination of two either. Three, we're talking. That I could see, if it was just three in the right time of my life, probably. But I definitely need all four right now because I got in the ring with with my toddler at home, with my book launch happening, um, all of that, and it was a really big time investment. And now I'm pot committed because I gotta get something out of it. Uh, but number one, kind of the just the throwaway easy light one. I'm 6'1". I'm almost 6'2", but I'm probably one of the rare guys that rounds down because I'm so used to like being measured for stuff with the military and with fighting. They're gonna round down, so I just do it anyway, right? So I'm only 6'1", and I say only, even though I know that's tall, and I don't have this massive frame. I should have been a cruiserweight my entire life. I fought as a heavyweight. The division really changed, and these behemoths. This was not a thing. All these guys, um, who are freaking 6'5", 6'6", 240 to 260 pounds. This is new. Like in fact, when I first started fighting, I remember having the thought process. I was an amateur in Cali, watching a fight. It was between Chris Areola and this guy who used to be a football player. Either way, they were both 6'2", right? I think Chris Areola might be 6'3". Um, but it was the main event. The undercard was this guy named Deontay Wilder, and I remember thinking,
Mm,
"What a tall guy! That's crazy." Even though he was the same height as this guy I had beaten to get in the program I was in LA, Dominic Brazil, who was our Olympic representative. This is 2012. It feels like I turned pro in 2013. It feels like but from 2011 to 2014, the average jump like 3, 4 inches in height. I can just like I'll just rattle off names of guys I'm thinking about, and I don't even follow it all like that. Like Joseph Parker, 6'5", Anthony Joshua, 6'6", Tyson Fury, 6'9",
Mhm.
Danny Dubois, 6'5". What's the other guy? Joe Joyce, 6'5". Uh, Alexander Usyk, the smallest of them, 6'4". And there's no upper weight limit. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me see what I can do as a cruiser. I always walked around
Mm.
closer to 215. Anyway, in fact, for my last fight, it was 215, and we let that. We just did that at heavyweight it was a because there was so much going on. I didn't want the added stress of trying to make weight. And I'll tell you, it was the biggest weight difference I'd fought at. The guy was my height, but he was a bit heavy and strong. It's not like he was sloppy. He was built like it's funny. I mean, I'm sure I'm just jumping to conclusions here, but he didn't speak English. He spoke Spanish, and I know that because he somebody asked him a question during the weigh-ins, and I speak Spanish well enough to where I'm comfortable saying I speak Spanish. Like if somebody tries to talk to me about something, I'll be able to understand it. So I translated for him. He's built like he's one of them guys that came over here, and work in the fields to keep the roof over, and feed himself like all day. And I'm like, he was strong. He hit me. You ever see that meme? The Simpsons character where he's sitting in the fire and he goes, "I'm in danger." Like that's how I felt. And I had to, get him out of there. But that's the main reason because I'm not trying to deal with that weight difference. Fortunately, he wasn't skilled. When they're skilled, it's a nightmare. So that's one. Two, we figured out why I had so much trouble losing weight. That program I was telling you about, Rebel Health, they look at my blood work. They go, you got this chronically high reverse T3, a thyroid hormone that puts the brakes on your metabolism. Well, they look at that and they go, well, we think this is a problem, but let's see what we can do and work on it. Turns out my genetics also showed I probably have a thyroid issue. Get that fixed. I get on this medication, and keep in mind, my regular doctor never looked at this because they don't do that. And freaking, it was like 2 weeks. I must have lost like 20 pounds. Not 20, like 15 in the midsection. Not muscle fun. I was like, whoa, I'm like 39 and I'm like ripped. I mean, I don't know if you can see the picture, if you saw the picture from after the fight, but I'm looking, I was like, yeah, I got like abs and shit. Like I wasn't trying. I'm just in the picture. But that's because I got my health really optimized and put on point by working with that group. Um, and I can't say enough good things about them. In fact, in fact, funny story. I can't because I'm in a water sport. I can't take any peptides or any type of TRT. I can't do it. Right. And I don't really need to, but you want as big of an disadvantage as you can. So I'm looking at my blood work, and there's this hormone called DHEAS, dash S,
Mm.
sulfate. And that's like one of those precursor hormones for your testosterone and all that. And I also saw my vitamin D was low. So I said, all right, let's see what happens if we fix these. And to fix that, I had to figure out I can't supplement with DHEA because that's also banned by WADA. So I started supplementing with something called pregnenolone, talking with the doc, seeing what worked. Man, I have and DHEA is like one of those hormones that drops as you get older. Mine look like I'm in my 20s. So back when we were talking about earlier again, maybe that's something else I do. I take that health so seriously and look for ways to really gain an advantage. And right now my body is just clicking and firing all cylinders. So those are really the two minor ones. My health is back and I wanted to be in the lighter division. Not the two major ones. One, I got this book, and this book is about boxing that came out. Hard Lessons from the Hurt Business. And when I
Mhm.
kept looking up all like the model of the books that had done well, like mine, I kept coming back to Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And one of the things that David did, and Scribe Media has this great video where they just break down kind of his background and strategy. David just kept competing and running while the book was going. He didn't
Yeah.
stop. And anyone like David's like front facing persona to a lot of people is the whole special forces thing, and the running. But if you read the memoir, like it's mostly about the running. Like he talks about his time in, but most of the book, I'd say at least 75%, is a recounting of his races. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
it's a really solid way to go. I think this can really work. It really work.
The part of the
And
book that actually, if I can say, I look at the cover, the title is great. Okay. Hard Lessons from the Hurt Business, Boxing, the Art of Life. As you're talking, but the part of the book that got me on the cover was this stoic street smarts
ah,
on there. And the reason I stopped in this is because it keeps coming back as you're talking, because here, okay, we've talked about your upbringing, talked about you getting into boxing, seeing possibility, then you casually throw out that you can speak Spanish. Okay, we talk about you're into chess, you're getting your blood work done. And I think like this is like modern day Renaissance. They're like, what else does this fucking guy do? And what else does he know? And it's like, and it's this notion of like stoic street smart, this street smarts of this application of trial, error, testing, retesting, figuring things out along the way. Like that was the part like that like grabbed me also. It's like, is that like that's you? Like you're the Stoic Street Smarts guy. It says it right there. It's like founder of Stoic Street Smart. I'm like, the guy's really, I'm like, this guy's really smart, does a lot of shit, knows a lot of stuff. Why?
I just
Because he's been through a lot of stuff and he's tried a lot of stuff and he's seen what works and what doesn't work. And now you're just telling us about it, basically, right?
yeah, I try to look like my whole thing about this, my time on this planet. This is one of them lessons I you can take a lesson from anywhere, right? This is one of those lessons I took from the constant clashes with my mother. Um, my mom didn't, she try and tell me I should do X or Y or Z, and it was never a good idea. Or the very least, I didn't think it was a good idea. And this isn't like when you tell your kid to do something that's good for them, and it's a good thing, and they're just being kids. It's like, nah, man. Like my mom flipped out one time when I brought a white girl home, and I was like, yo, like I understand you were raised in the '60s, but that ain't how we gonna get down. And if you ain't down, then I'm not down with you. Like I never had an issue standing up to my mom. And the reason why I never had this problem is because I realized early on that one day she's not gonna be here, but I still am, assuming nothing goes wrong. That means I've got to live with everything I do and the decisions I make. And
Mm-hmm.
and nothing about her life and my relationship led me to believe that she was overly concerned with the decisions I made. I felt like she certainly didn't want them to like inconvenience her, but a sense of well-being about me, no. And there are plenty of things I could think of in my adult life that only reiterate that, that prove it more than disprove it. So, uh, in other words, all I have to say, I've got to make sure I know what I'm. I test for me and figure out what works for me and live on my terms. And if you get the courage to do that, it's really hard to be unhappy. Like
Mm-hmm.
really hard. You're not always going to make the right move or the best move, but and this ties in, one of the reasons we didn't even get to the fourth reason, but maybe we'll get there. Because I'm jumping to another reason, another set of reasons for things. What made me think of it? One of the things that I think surprises people when I talk about why I got sober, why I stopped drinking, is I didn't want any relationship of mine that got ruined to be ruined because of something that I was not fully in control of. Like admit I met my wife and I said, this is a really nice girl, this might work out, I should probably stop drinking. And that was one reason, right? Not all the reasons, but that was one reason. Now we compound that and I go, well, okay, I'm going to see how long this relationship goes. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be because of something I did, not because or because of how I am, not because I got drunk and acted a certain way or I drank too much. Like for me, that always bugged me. Um, the the readiness with which people will cast off and find the find something to take the responsibility off of them, and I try and go the other way because there
What was the way you stopped? How did you go about stopping drinking? Because
um
I don't drink anymore either. I was too good at it. That's what it is, right, for too long. And for me, it as I started shifting to getting health, wanting to get healthier, it started to also work its way out of my life because I couldn't do both. I couldn't keep up with the drinking
yeah.
at night and wake up. And how was it for like, how was it for you to get off drinking?
I got really busy, man. I got really busy and I wanted to stop. Those are the two big things. So I my sobriety date is December 22nd, 2013.
Okay.
Okay, so that was also the year I enlisted in the army. And when I enlisted. I think my I can't remember what the opposite of ETS is for the life of me, but ETS is end of service or
Mhm.
interim service, something like that. But that's the day you get out. Then the opposite is the day you get in. I know, but the day I got in was January 4th. I thought I was gonna leave for basic training immediately. Turns out because of my MOS, I had to wait until June. So I didn't leave for basic for a few more months. Really almost ruined my life majorly. A lot of it driven by alcohol while I was still there. Fortunately, I didn't. Got the basic, went away. And I had the cool thing that happened while I was there in basic and AIT is that I got to like for the first time in my adult life make friends where alcohol was not the centerpiece at all. So I got to see a new identity. I got to
Mm.
see what I could be. That really helped. That's not why when I stopped. I came back and tried to drink one more time, and then really made a fool of myself, and took some dumb risks. And then I woke up and I said, "Well, why not just started dating a wife? I just re-enrolled in school. My pro career just started, and now I'm subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice along with civilian justice. And if I mess up and do something under the influence of alcohol, I'm going to lose all the benefits and reasons that I joined the military in the first place." So I had all these reasons, and even that wasn't enough. I had to trick myself, and I said I'm gonna do this for like a year. I said I'm gonna do it until I have a book deal, or I win a major fight or something like that, or I graduate. Now after a year, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to drink again. But during that year, I was so busy. I was so busy. I was training for my fights. I was doing my drills for the army. I was in school and I was in school for physics. Now you can't phone that shit. And I had to like really there were many nights. I don't know how I drank all that coffee and how I survived, but I did. And I had a job too, because making any money. I was working at a bank. Notice that I didn't mention anything about my social life in there
Hmm.
or about my romantic life. Uh, but I found time for that, for at least from romantic life. I didn't see my friends for a while. In fact, by the time I started hanging out with my friends again, they had started dating people that they weren't dating. We were dating before, or when we were hanging out before, and then they eventually broke up, and now they've been married. I think for 6 years. No, it has been 6 years because it was because we went to the weddings when my son when Anna was pregnant with Henry. So like 3 years. Point is, very busy, very focused on something else. So I
Mm.
didn't have the temptation to drink. And then when I thought about it before, given the reasons why I was drinking in the first place and even went to get sober, I said I'm not going back.
I think what jumps out at me there is the I got busy. I just love the simplicity of the I got really busy.
Yeah,
Like,
like
and I think there's so much to that, which is, hey, like it's the action. If your action and your occupation in a way and the time that you're spending is on the drinking itself, when you
it's
replace that again, when that's where your friends are, if you will, or that's where you're spending your time, or that's where your social skills are, or that's the lubrication you need and all that, it's got to be replaced with other actions and activities that again forced to be like you just got busy, as you said. You joined the army. You're training for fight. You're doing all the. You start stacking this up. It's like where's the room and the bandwidth for alcohol? At a certain
And
point,
no, not at
it's like
all.
it's not there.
Yeah.
Like even I've said, like, look, it wasn't so much that my desire to drink went away. You know what went away was like my desire to feel like crap the next morning and
Yeah.
not sleep well, feel like crap the next morning. And I'm so busy that now I can't do these things well. And that can't continue. That's not sustainable
Yeah. This ain't gonna
because
work.
you can't be drinking until midnight or and be up at 6 training and then go to work, and then be a good father and then be a good husband. All the other stuff just the deck was stacked. Like something had to give. And I
Yeah.
get that for people that are addicts and like how hard, but the busier I got, the easier it became for to work alcohol out because the other things became more prominent, became more enjoyable. Quite frankly, I was liking how I was feeling. I was getting in better shape. It's like you seeing the abs. Look, these things go hand in hand. You get the blood work done. Oh, we solved the problem. Look at this. I see some abs. I'm feeling better. We're solving things by
Yeah.
like through the action and the busyness. And then you go, wait a minute, this isn't so important anymore overall, or it's not doing what it used to do or what I thought it was going to do.
Yeah. It's and the other thing too, I talk to not so much anymore, but I would talk to guys who are in AA. Not just guys, girls too. I talk to people in AA. And the big thing they're worried about is is like how are they going to live, like socialize without alcohol. There are a lot of them are worried about the friend group. And so this, I say, you got to remember that your sobriety, well, first is for you, first and foremost. But what will make that easy to remember and act on is if you look at your sobriety like a habit, because drinking was a habit. You got to look at your sobriety like a habit. The longer you can do it without being tempted, the stronger that a habit will become. You proclaim you're not going to drink. You don't go out for a week, and you go out the next weekend with friends, and they're all drinking. You might really not want to drink, but you don't know any other way to interact with people. Your habit's not strong enough to pull you off the wagon. On the flip side, I remember I didn't go out late until I stopped. What was it? December 23rd, first full day of sobriety, 2013. John Jones fought Daniel Cormier the first time. I think it was like January 2015, and I went out with some friends to watch that fight. It was the Dave and Buster's, and they had pictures of beer. I had no desire to drink the pictures of beer though, none. Because at that point, it had been like a year since I was out in that kind of environment. It was now it was a habit, like not drinking. It was very
Mhm.
easy to be like, no. I knew I had a streak of days, and you can't just get that time back. And I was like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm gonna just hang out. That's what I try to tell people who are struggling. Getting busy is part of it. It's a big part because that's going to allow what that's going to do is that's those times when you ain't got nothing else to do. Oh, you gonna have something to do. Addict by himself is in the worst company possible. If you can figure out how to make sure whatever keeps you busy also keeps you around other people, you're spot on. It's almost impossible to lose that way. And on top of that, and then when you do it that way, you're gonna just end up. I'm convinced that interacting with other people and our relationships with other people, that's the most important thing. I think if we can do that, we can avoid a lot of problems. And there's a lot of good research on this in terms of how it relates to addiction. So if you can get busy with people, you're in a good spot. And that's pretty much what I did. None of those pursuits were solitary whatsoever. Um,
Mm. You put the book into 12 rounds, basically 12 chapters, 12 rounds. And it really walks you through the hard lessons that you learned. Uh, but I wanted to talk about your process for writing the book. You know, you mentioned Goggins and you looked at like his style and how he did it. And then you, but okay, when did you first also kind of realize like I have something to say? You know, and I want to start saying it because now like really what you're known for your voice. You know, obviously what you've accomplished in the ring and what you've done. And again, you're this modern day Renaissance man and everything you said. I've been on alcohol and I've been sober. I've been in the military. I've been out of the military. I've done the Spanish. I've done the chess. I've done the boxing. I've done the hard thing. Like you can have all these things and you can live them, but it's another thing to say I'm going to put myself out there also and I'm going to write about these things and I'm going to share them and I'm going to be of service and I'm going to talk about them. You know, and you've been really strategic and tactical, I think, in the manner in which you've put yourself out there and you've built, you know, tremendous credibility, you know, and you're inspiring a lot of people. And I think that's transcended it's transcended neighborhoods, you know, it's transcended, you know, socioeconomic status, it's transcended. I mean, you're just out there like, hey man, like this is me, this is how I see it and sharing it with you. And this is what I got some tolerance for, and this is what I don't, you know, on there,
Yeah.
which I think is really like, I think there's something to that kind of candor and honesty today that's really refreshing. Like, so walk me through your process a little bit and when you decided, I'm going to speak, I'm going to talk, I'm going to write, like, I'm going to put my life out there.
Uh, I don't think there was any ever. I don't think there was ever any conscious decision like, you know what we should do? We should air the bullshit. Like it just, it. I never had that thought. What I did think is that I should write. So one of my biggest fears is someone I guess thinking I'm a fraud in any way, shape, or form. That's probably why I downplay my height. That's probably why like it's taken a long time for me to say and feel comfortable saying I know Spanish because when you say that, you know what people like to do is they like to just say shit to you
Right.
randomly.
Start talking Spanish to you. Right.
So like now I know that like 98% of what you'll likely say I will know well enough to respond quickly and know well and do that right. So for me in terms of why I write about what I've experienced, why my videos about what I've experienced, all that is no one can ever call me into question for what I put out there. Now you can question my judgment in putting it out there. Maybe you shouldn't have said that, but you're never going to be able to say I lied. You're never going to be able to say I exaggerated or it's false. And I realized that, or this is I won't say realized, but yeah, eventually, one of the things I realized at some point in my life was that you know you can help in a lot of ways if you share what you've gone through and you ain't a mess from it and you figured out how to like be okay. Well, you kind of have a responsibility as a human to share that to help somebody else to figure out how to not be messed up from what they're going through.
So why do you think some people, if you want to speak of this, you shirk that responsibility? You know, you look at it as we've got that responsibility, and it's my responsibility to go out there and do it.
Uh-huh.
Most don't. So like you take you know, people that are enabled or people that are entitled or have a victim mentality and anything like this is where I also wanted to go. Like, you don't have a whole lot of tolerance for that or patience for that, do you?
No, I have a I don't understand because this is a great time to be alive. This this time right now is the best time there's ever been to be alive. And that does not mean that this world is perfect. It means that compared to years and times prior, it's a vast improvement. We've got a lot of things that we have that we didn't have even 100 years ago, even 50 really. It's a great planet. It's a great place. A lot of beauty in this world, and I don't understand focusing on the negative and what you lack. I get
Do
why
you
we
pay
do it.
attention to politics? Do you pay
No.
attention to all the like, so this is what I mean. Like I have a feeling that like that would be your answer. if we got back in another one of these calls 5 years from now, okay, whenever it was, you and I met up with John, we're down in Florida and we're walking around, and I got a feeling your answer would be the same. This is the greatest time to be alive. The
Mm.
world's in a better place. Like I sense that's your outlook and that's your aura, and you don't get bogged down in negativity and a lot of this other bullshit. Is that accurate?
Very accurate. Because look, I and people sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, why don't you pay attention to politics or why don't you know what's going on?" I'm like, "Look, if it's really important, if I can do something about it, I'm not gonna be able to ignore it for very long. But if I can, that means it really doesn't matter that much to me." And they go, "Well, what about you? You know, what about making a change, making a difference?" I'm like, "You're not making a change and making a difference. It's look for the people who put their time and energy on the front line, in one way or the other, where they really put some skin in the game. Those people, I applaud them. I salute them. We need those people. If I ever get involved in politics, that is the type of person I will be. And when I say get involved, that means any type of involvement, whether it be commitment or light engagement. Okay. But what you're doing, what you want me to do, when most people say this, is you're just commenting and having an opinion that only costs you negative energy and time that you could be using to do other things that make your life better. I'm not going to do that. That I won't do, and I and whatever length I have to go to do it to maintain that peace, I will go. And that has meant I won't say losing friends because no one's ever like said I'm not going to be your friend because of that, but because of actions I've taken that show either to them it was I'm aligned and it was like no I just don't care. Yeah, I've lost friends because it's not worth
Yeah,
me
I
getting.
know. I know exactly what you're getting at, and I agree with you. And I think, I've always had this thing in my head too, where it's like the old ad campaigns. You talked about the most interesting guy or whatever it was.
Yeah,
The old ad campaigns were like, there was one that was like, act locally, think globally, which is
yeah,
like kind of, I viewed that as control what you can control. Like, I can't change the world, okay? But acting locally means I can control what's happening in my house, my own health, the kind of parent
right.
I want to be, the day that I want to have, those. And if we all just did a little bit more of that, I
A
mean,
lot
I mean,
more
a lot like, and these are the basic things that you've taught. Hey, if you got up and kept yourself busy and you went to the gym and you made friends there and you're in a good mood and you physically took it out and then you went home and you wrote and you read some books and you played some chess, you did like we would all
so
be
much
so much
like my
happier and
whole
so much
life.
more fulfilled than it's like I got this essay from a friend of mine the other day and he's a wonderful guy, fantastic guy. And he's deeply smart and intelligent and everything. But I can't for the life of me figure out why he wants to waste so much time going down these political rabbit holes, trying to change everything, trying to espouse all of his opinions on the left side and the right side and then this. And got it. And I looked at this and go, here's my choice. I could read this,
Yep.
okay, or not. Love the guy, always going to be friends, everything else. But if I read this, I know I'm going to open up again. I've been down. This is going to be another 3,000 word diatribe that's going to invariably piss me off in some way. And the main reason it's going to end up pissing me off is that I just spent all this time reading a 3,000 word diatribe about things I have absolutely no control over, nor do I care all that much about in
That
the
you're
grand scheme
supposed
of
to be mad
things.
about.
Right. And I could have talked to Ed. I could have gone to the gym. I could have talked to my kids. I could have had a better, I could have done all these other things. And now I just ended up reading this thing and ultimately end up in a dialogue that he expects me to respond to and in a situation, and none of this sounds good to me. So I look at these choices like you're talking about here, really, and say, hey, like it is that I call it better one or better two. Which one sounds better? Like read this and get bent out of shape and pissed off and do all this, or talk to Ed or go to the gym. The choice is obvious.
It's I want to understand people who stare at what well okay I have a theory but what I was going to say before I jump to the theory is I want to understand people who choose to focus their energies on things they can't do anything about and ignore the things they can do something about because this is a finite resource, our attention. So it's not like you can do both. People think you can do both. You can't do both. Every bit of attention you give to something that you can't do anything about is attention you're taking away from something that you can do something about. Okay. So I used to think, I was like, why do people like this? Why does this happen? And I came to the answer indirectly. Whenever you give somebody the knowledge of how something will turn out, they now have a burden. They can continue taking that action if they want that outcome, or they can stop if they don't want that outcome. But this all relies on them knowing that that's the likely outcome. This is why cognitive dissonance is a thing, and people will jump through all kinds of hoops to try and justify some a bad idea, because if they embrace the actual fact of what is going on, if they let themselves go, just follow it logically, then they have two choices. They can go, man, you know what? I'm a piece of crap. I don't really care. I'm just letting you know. Like I know it's bad, but I'm one of them dudes. I just want to see the world burn. Or like most people who don't just want to see the world burn, they would then have to go, okay, well, now that you put it that way, I gotta do something about it. That last one, that sounds like, you would think that's most people. I've learned is not. Um, People want what doesn't require much of them. If I learn something and it requires me to behave a certain way so I don't bring forth a negative outcome or something that makes the world a worse place, I have to do it. I don't really get a choice in the matter. Even if I want, I'm trying to think of a good example here from my own life without going too general. Oh, I got a perfect one. Let me tell you something. I ain't never smoked a cigarette a day in my life. I read some articles online that said nicotine is great. So you know what I started doing? I started chewing that gum. Took me about 3 months before I realized I'm hooked on this gum. I'm spending like 20 like little packs to $15 for 20 pieces. I was probably spending some days like $60, man, 3 packs. And I was like, that's a lot of nicotine. And that's more nicotine than a cigarette smoking a pack would give you. So I said, all right, whatever, man. I'm hooked. It's all good because it's an advantage. That's what I was telling myself. Then I took a VO2 max test and I scored 33, which is low for someone my conditioning. I said, this is some bullshit. Like, I'm sitting there like thinking the test is wrong, but I'm not going to go retake it because it's miserable. I hate a VO2 that
Yeah.
test. Um, but I started doing my research and looking up like how the nicotine gum affects you, how nicotine affects your cardiovascular system and your heart rate. And I said, ain't this about a bitch? This is basically like the opposite of a performance enhancer. It really is. All this stuff that people are touting about nicotine, I got to think big tobacco is behind it because there's just no, like, when you look at the science of what this stuff does, no, 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 no. It ain't like caffeine. Caffeine is a lot of solid empirical science where you get a lot of boost because they just work on different mechanisms in the body. So what did I do? Man, I just said it's time to quit. And I made a post about this on Twitter a few days ago. I said, I'm only quitting gum. If this is the watered down version of what people go through who quit smoking, I have all the respect in the world for what people who quit smoking cigarettes go through. It was like it still sucks because what I had to do was like start chewing regular gum in place, but I never chewed so much gum in my life. Like, and I don't. In fact, I did not chew gum. Now there's gum all over the house because I introduced a bad habit. Then once I got hip to how that habit worked, I had to introduce another habit in place of it. And look, and I quit cold turkey because without like it's not like the gum is like a little bit of nicotine because the nicotine is supposed to be ain't that crazy? The gum is supposed to be the thing to get you off of an addictive substance.
But what they do is they put the addictive substance in the gum. So they say, look, it's better than smoking, but we're doing the
Uh,
same thing to you.
It's just, it's
And
like fucking methadone, man. Like it's, it's
I had a call
goofy.
earlier with leading nutritional psychiatrist today. He was talking about caffeine in the same manner that you were. Okay, it's got a lot of positive benefits. There's imperial research on caffeine, everything else, and there. And then I also saw today somebody. This is my my monkey brain works like this too. Is like, and they were promoting a new nicotine product. I don't know because now nicotine again for athletes. There's something in these pouches and these other things that are going on, and nicotine is big. And I was thinking, I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. Be like, this has got to be a money play, or this has got to be something. But
Absolutely.
what is behind this? Because I like again this person, respect this person. Now all of a sudden I'm seeing more sponsorship, more deals that they're doing, and now here's one that just really seems like the outlier to me. Like, wow, like I can't see you going for this other than somebody backed the truck up and just dumped a lot of money and said, "Hey,
Man.
this is something I think we should get behind, on there." And what I also hear you saying is like, "Hey, when I did it or when I got into this or whatever it might be, here's what I ended up doing because going back and I did I start doing research, doing my own research, figuring certain things out, making some decisions for myself again, deciding what I wanted to take back some control over, because we all make these mistakes and missteps and go down certain paths or try things or get hooked on this or they become crutches in everything. And I've now gotten off of caffeine,
Yep,
which was
man.
really tough because you know I was having some gut issues, some colitis thing, and they're saying, listen, it's not good for that. It's got a lot of benefits overall, but for back to blood work and tests, it's like for somebody who's wired like you are, Greg, this isn't such a great thing. That whole acid reflux, like you got to wean yourself off the caffeine because it was like my last vice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'd given up the alcohol, I'd given up the bad food, I'd given up. I was like, please don't take my morning coffee, my caffeine. But I was drinking a lot. What I found was similar to you, like so you went to you start chewing other gum. You're like, now I'm chewing a lot of gum. What I found was as much as I don't think I was even as addicted to the caffeine as I was addicted to the ritual.
Ritual. Yep.
Okay. I was addicted to the ritual of my process was getting up, anything, hydrate, caffeinate, urinate, boom, every morning, not necessarily in that order, but it was like, I had a great coffee maker and I had high quality coffee. I liked the whole process and adding my collagen and the MCT oil. I had a whole thing. And the next thing I know, by like 7 o'clock in the morning, I've had like four double espresso, basically
Yep.
the
That's
equivalent of
how.
this.
Yep.
And you wonder why I was getting headaches and starting to crash and then getting acid reflux. Since I've switched to, I can't even be saying this word like I used to cringe when I say it. Since I switched to decaf, okay, sounding like an old man, what I realized from this is it was again the ritual. I do the same exact ritual every morning. What's happened is I've lost the headaches, I've lost the acid issues, I've lost the afternoon crashes, the other things that with the eye fluttering, that tells you, oh, you've had way too much
Yeah.
caffeine, in there, and feel ultimately so much better. But I had to replace it. I couldn't just go like no more coffee to water or something like that, or like find some other beverage out there. Like I have to do the ritual at least for now. Like that's what's working.
Yeah, that's very spot on how it worked. I did the same thing with non-alcoholic beer too for a little while.
Hmm. I went down that road. I like some non-alcoholic beer. I was never, even when I drank alcohol, I wasn't a beer guy. When I
But the
gave up
non
alcohol, all of a sudden looking for what do I do with my hands? Like what do I drink? What
Yep,
do I
they're the
do?
same thing
Yeah.
because it looks and tastes like you should be at a party, but it's not the party,
And all of a
you
sudden
know.
I got into non-alcoholic beer. People actually thought I was drinking again
Yep.
because they'd never seen me with beer before. They didn't even know what I was drinking even before when I was drinking heavily. Now all of a sudden I've got these beers in my hand. They're like, oh, he's drinking again, or oh, he's a beer guy. I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
uh, so bringing this around because like what we're trying to do here at Midlife Mail, what I get the most enjoyment out of in being of service and helping guys that are trying to figure out what these years should look like. Mm. You've seen in your 40 years on this planet, you've seen a lot. You've been. What advice would you give, to guys in middle age that did you want to be a little bit better? They want to be a little bit happier. They want to be a little bit smarter. They want to be a little bit more than what they are. We kind of hitting that rut. You know,
Look, you're gonna be here for a while. Like it's actually amazing. You with the technology we have today and the awareness of health we have today, you know, unless you do something to really make it really hasten your demise, you're gonna be here till you're like 80, right? No, like so. Let's plan on being here till 80. That mean, and when I say plan on being here till 80, I don't mean like you spending like 70 to 80 or 75 to 80, like incapacitated. Like no, you're gonna be here. You're gonna be moving around. You're gonna be doing shit, man. Okay, so that means that you can't take the approach that you're running out of time because you are running out of time, but like running out of time for what? Everybody's time ends, but you're not going to be able to do anything spectacular. Like there's no great work inside of you. So go easy on yourself and instead just try to use every day to be just a little bit better. Like do something a little bit better, move a little bit better, connect with somebody. Really use this time because it will run out. Uh yeah, the time will run out. And so you can use it one of two ways. You can just enjoy the decline of your body and just go, boom, I'm gonna just sit around and do nothing. Or you can go, well, I don't have that much time. Maybe I should call that friend I've been thinking about. Maybe I should take that walk, take that trip, um, learn how to perform that skill. That it ain't got to be a crazy skill. Shit, man, learn how to make paella. I don't know, like there's all kinds of things that you can do that you don't have. Like you could, you will not. You don't have enough time to do everything. Once you make peace with that, then you go, wow, what do I have time left to do? And then you just do it. That's it. Like that's it. You gotta have this curiosity for life. Don't give that up. Like to sum all that up, you gotta be curious about life. You can't give it up. Curiosity makes everything better.
I love it, Ed. It says right here at the top, we've all got a choice. That's we've all got a choice on this. The book is Hard Lessons from the Hurt Business, Boxing and the Art of Life. Ed Latimore, Stoic Street Smarts. Lots of wisdom here. And guys, lots of applicable tips on how to apply that wisdom and get out there and use it to actually do things and take action, embrace curiosity, be insightful, get off your ass,
Yep.
all of these things, action over outcome. Man, I could talk to you for a long time. I need some other I need some boxing tips on stuff. I got to know what I'm doing overall.
Oh
I got to
yeah, there
work
you
on
go.
my defense. I know that much that's going on, but man, I really appreciate your transparency on this. I love the candor. I love what a straight shooter you are. And guys, I want you to pick up a copy of the book. Also, get it over to YouTube. That's where you're spending most of your time right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I got a video. It'll be up tomorrow morning, where I
Right.
tell the story of the video is like why you shouldn't cheat in a relationship. That's basically the idea. But I tell the story of this cat that I served with, who was a whole entire nutball, and he was having an affair with some woman who was married. She wanted to break it off. He said, "The hell you don't." And just lost his mind, started stalking her, sending pictures, told her he was gonna come blow the house up. She at this point took him seriously, and thank goodness she did because the police picked him up with a whole ass bomb in his car. Uh, and now he's doing like 7 to 15 years, and a whole more of the story. And then there's some other stories I have about like people think about this one part of cheating and that's bad, but here's this other part that you should probably think about too, which is some of these motherfuckers is just unstable and they will kill you. They will absolutely take you up off this planet if they find out you are messing with their girl. Like, and the worst part is, our best, depending on your argument or your angle, worst best part is, depending on how they do it, man, they're not gonna do that much time. There's a thin but real difference between third degree murder and voluntary manslaughter when it comes to a
And I
crime.
hope we get involved with none of this. Point being, go, it is a straight shot right down the middle, okay, of the stories he has, the stories he shares, what you put out there. And if you're really looking for substance over all the style and all the BS that's out there, you've got a great channel. You're spending a lot of time on YouTube. Guys, open it up. I'm sharing this stuff with my sons as well. I'm looking at it, learning from it all. Some of it, I'm like, whoa, okay. Some of it, I'm like, okay, I got this. This all work. And that's the beauty in all of it. So Ed, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate the conversation, and you're welcome anytime. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate you for having me.
No, this was a pleasure and a privilege, and I think I forgot, maybe I didn't even mention it. It's our mutual friend John Finkel,
Oh
who
yeah, John is a
yeah,
great guy. He's very helpful with the writing career stuff.
who
And
introduced us and set this up and said, you guys need to talk. I'm like, okay. When John tells me I need to talk to somebody, I listen to him. And then I looked you up. It's like, oh, yeah, we do need to talk. Okay.
very quick.
Yeah, I don't want to spar with him, but I definitely want to talk to him about stuff. Okay.
Speaking of sparring, I'm off to take my kid to not a sparring thing, but it'll be like sparring, trying to get him out of the house on time. So I'm gonna take off.
Start him early. Thank you so much. I
Uh,
really appreciate it. And be
hey,
well.
thank you. See ya.
Take care.